Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to a new, fresh episode of The Energy of Houses and Properties. And let me check if Aisha is already on. Maybe not. If you have a question, just send in your question in the comments so we can have a look at it and answer it. And there is Aisha. Let me invite her. There she is.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
How's it going?
All right. I have a bit of a cold, so my voice is not the most
Yeah.
optimum it could be,
Okay.
but I'm
Yeah.
fine.
Oh, good. I hope you feel better soon.
Yeah. And yourself? How are you doing?
Doing well, doing well. We had a big storm yesterday. Lots of thunder, and for a few days it was, or last week was really hot. So it cooled off the whole city. It's nice. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. So Nikki, did you get any questions from your your people, your
Not
community
yet.
for
I've
this?
just invited everyone who is looking to ask a question. If you're watching now, or maybe later on in the replay, just send in your questions over email or in a DM. It's all fine. And then we take them up for the next one. And if you have a question now, just put them in the comments so we can talk about it and discuss it and maybe help you with it.
Yeah.
So did you receive any questions?
No, I haven't. I haven't received any questions. So,
No.
yeah. Maybe everyone's like, oh, they're back. So it's like, we got to get back into our rhythm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Get
exactly.
back into our rhythm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we spoke last week, we were talking about vampirism, energy vampires. Maybe you want to introduce the terminology to the
Sure,
audience.
absolutely. Yeah, energy vampires. That's it's a good one. Oh, that's a vast topic. Really, I I refer to them kind of like energy leeches, the leeches that suck onto your feet and legs when you're in a swampy lake. And energy vampires, energy leeches can take many forms. There are many manifestations. You know, in your relationships, you could have an energy vampire. You may be partnered with one. You may have energy vampires in the form of family, parents, people that you are in community with. Notice that there may be some people in your life that take up a lot of your time, drain you of energy. Okay, so that's in fact like what goes on in terms of people. Yeah, I'm just reflecting on points in my life where I'd say yes to these energy vampires way too often, and it would affect day-to-day living, right? It would affect my capacity to accomplish my goals. Distractions, and I have an aspect that is fairly open. I don't know if any of you are familiar with human design.
I am.
Okay, are you? That's great. I would love to have a conversation about that with you. I'm certainly not a pro in human design, but someone who is mentoring me, Connor Sauer, in a business program, is a human design expert in the business realm, especially. Anyway, so a lot of my centers are open. And so I am susceptible to being influenced by other people. Now, being influenced and conditioned is not necessarily a bad thing. We're all influenced and conditioned, right? Like beauty, cities, environments, people can influence us, can condition us. Like growing up as children, if we're in the right nourishing environment, then we're conditioned in a good and healthy way, right? But as I was growing into womanhood, there was a lot of confusion. I was allowing a lot in through my aura. I'm a generator, 70% of the population, so I'm a generator type. And we tend to, we have an open and welcoming aura, right? We're the ones at the parties who are welcoming everybody and, just making sure everybody's okay and, right? All that. There are four main types in human design. And as you go into individuals, it gets far more intricate, right? So I was letting in a lot of these energy vampires, Nikki. And, if we start to think of our bodies as a house, right? We are a temple. I used to say, I'm a temple under construction. Right? Like the doors may not be on perfectly. It's like all the ornaments are kind of like, I'm still trying to get those guys to put the stained glass up in there, but it's just they're not hearing me, or I'm not settled in or anchored in bedrock. Let's say my foundations are not anchored properly, right? As we grow, right? It's a really wonderful metaphor. I've been meditating on it a lot, actually, Nikki. This tuning into our inner temple and what that means and allowing that to really form. So what does this have to do with energy vampires? My doors were open. So interesting, right? I'm actually looking at myself in this relationship with the energy vampires instead of saying, oh, energy vampires are bad, right? It's also about you, right? What are you letting in? What are you allowing into your temple? Even if it's under construction, right? I think it's going to be under construction for eons, by the way, right? Oh, she finally got the roof on. She finally got the roof on her temple, right? So, yeah, imagine, right, that you are a house and perhaps all the windows and doors are open. Perhaps it's like super like sleek sliding glass doors. Everything is glass, and you're allowing a lot in. It's like, ooh, knock, knock, knock. Are you busy? It's like someone comes over and it's like, oh, I was supposed to get this work done, but there's someone who's needing me, who's feeding off of my energy, right? That's a vampire, sucking your blood, right? Feeding on my life force. And then if we take it to the conversation of houses and properties, what would be other examples of energies that feed on the life force of properties? There could be ghosts that are very needy. They're very needy, and some trauma did not get resolved, and they're hanging out on the land, and they're needing a lot from the owners. And the owners may be manifested by just being drained and tired all the time, right? Inability to execute a project, inability to complete something. There's always something in the way. Now, again, the owners, of course, always ask for it, even if they're not conscious of it. So that's like the relationship people part. Nikki, what other things come up for you in terms of energy vampires on properties?
Well, if you consider something to be a vampire, first of all, there is something within you that is not believing that there is enough life energy around for everyone. So something within
Mm.
you, that's the first thing, whether it's a thing or a being or a person. If something within you thinks there is not enough, then you create some kind of container with a reservation of energy, and somebody is leeching onto that, and then it runs on empty. But if you
Yeah, it's
believe
like the
there is enough
poison.
energy around, you just have to keep on filling the tank. So anybody who wants to take can take. So instead
Because
of
you know there's an
resisting,
abundant.
you just give them more than they were asking for. And it's a really interesting exercise. I just did it with a couple of clients of mine. It was eye-opening. If we talk about energy vampires being people in flesh and blood, like persons, and they ask for a lot of energy, whether it is in attention or question or just energetic, just give them more than they were asking. But then you have to be able to trust this abundance of the universe that you will get filled up. And what then 10 out of 10 times happens is those people will go away because you're not playing their game. Then there are also people, they are not vampires, but they're more like pushers. So they are really pushing a lot of energy on you. So then you just have to suck them empty and
Mm.
suck them more than they are pushing, so they fall over in a way. If you see it as a stream of energy. And it's really interesting what happens then, especially when you're working with groups. You have to be able to play that game both ways with different people, and then you will not be affected. But it demands you being able to open this channel and being centered and connected with what I call source. So as long as you're being you, then it will not affect you. But as long when you align and agree or align and resist, it will affect you. And then it doesn't really matter whether it's people or places or things. And yes,
Yeah.
of course, you need to take care of things. You know, a big energy vampire in houses could be a leakage, you know, with the water pipes, or a mess. You know, people have to just clear up and clear out their stuff, because a mess takes up a lot of your energy, even if you're not really aware of it. But
Yeah.
on an unconscious level, you will always be triggered that you need to do something, and that will cost you a lot of energy. So the basis is you have to be able to be as centered as you possibly can and not be distracted. And yes, you can notice it, but I don't care. Just give them more or take them from them, and then they will, go away. That's what happens in conversations, even on the phone, with people. And you think, oh, they take up my time. So you do a boundary, but instead of doing a boundary, just give them more and see what happens. It's an interesting experiment, and it
Yeah, I
worked for
love
me
it.
in a lot of ways. I'm
Well,
sorry, I'm
such a
really having a call.
yeah, it's life.
So
um,
boundaries is a thing. Sometimes a boundary is really good to have them. You have to be
yeah,
able to say, "Hey, now it's enough." But if it's just in a conversation or on a, I don't know, a party where you can't get away and you're in a conversation, you want to be polite, just play with the energy. Give them just more and more and more, and they will fall over and go away because you're not playing their game.
right. Yeah, I love that. That's such a whole other level because it really does then yeah, you engage with it more on a conscious level. And I love what you said about a lot of when we're attracting energy vampires, we're assuming that there isn't enough energy to go around. Is that what you were saying? Like within ourselves, within our own vessel?
If you have a lot of people around you or things around you, there must be something. I cannot see it any other way. There must be something within you that does not believe there is enough to go around. There's not a lot of life force to go
Right.
around. Life
It's
force
gonna
is
be
not
constantly
coming in
with my energy.
packages.
Right, right. But if we're in this constant stream, I mean, that just reminds me of my training as an alchemical energy healer. Yeah, this is super key actually as healers. It was a critical point in the training where it was very there was a distinction made about the use of energy, of our energy. We are not, as healers, using our energy. We are simply tapping into the universal life force, right? And there's an abundant flow of it. And we are transmitting it. We are vessels for it. We are instruments for it. The people who are being healed are in full responsibility of their own healing. And we are holding the vessel for that to happen. So that really landed for me right there and then. Nikki, thank you. It's so key. I think I've been asked that before. Yeah, I've been asked that many times as an energy healer. People would ask me, don't you get drained? Like, or don't you get also, don't entities or dark energies get latched onto you, right? Isn't it like too much? Aren't you getting too much into other people's energy? And no, absolutely not. It's very clear. I'm tapping into the universal life force energy, holding that temple very clear, clean, right? The housekeeping is done on a consistent
Mhm.
basis, right? Making sure the windows are washed and the floors are washed and doing that my own keep maintenance. And then you're able to have a much more clear uh, connection to source
Mhm.
and hold space for what needs to transpire, what needs to transpire. Yeah.
And you are that all the time, not just when you have a client lying on your massage table. It's
Yeah. And
all the
more and more
time.
all the time. And more, that is actually becoming true, true, true. In a certain stage of our evolution and consciousness, you know, the mystics, the spiritual leaders, think of hermits having to separate themselves from society, right? Go to the cave,
Mm-hmm.
meditate for a long time. This was needed. This was definitely needed for our growth as well
Mm-hmm.
now. But now we are at a stage where we can be tapped in, tuned in while driving in our car, listening to the radio.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Nikki?
We have to, because if you come down from your mountain or your cave and you come back into society and you can't do what you've been training up there, then what's the point? It's
Right.
really easy to do that in nature, but it's much more difficult to do that in daily life. And
Yeah,
yeah,
at the grocery
yes, it
store.
is good to train and go to a retreat and do all that stuff, but the real training happens in daily life. And what a lot of people do, they use the strategy of visualizing some kind of reflective egg around them. So
Right.
no energy can come in. So what happens then is no information can come.
Yeah, that's a
And
there's more
what you
details to the exercise.
what
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
what you what you do, what you constantly do is just holding up this screen all the time, which makes you more tired than just be connected with Gaia, with the center of the universe, whatever way
Yeah.
you do that, instead of holding up, this protective shield. Yes, it is sometimes necessary to shield, so you should be
No,
able to
yeah,
do that. But it's a last minute resource. It's just a first aid, when you are encountering
right.
something all of a sudden and you're not prepared, then you have to throw up all the boundaries. But it's
Yeah.
better to lower all your boundaries and be like, I don't know, grass in the wind. It's much easier
I think
because
a lot of that too has to do with safety as well. A lot of it to do with what we've experienced as a child. I'm reflecting on myself, how for many years I had a very sensitive stomach and some, reoccurring chronic illnesses. And I noticed that I would use that to separate myself more from people. Oh, no, I can't eat that. Oh, I can't do this. Or, I'm just distancing myself more and more. I think that that was my egg. And now I'm just flowing with it, and it's like, okay, today if it's like I have a little bit of that or this, I'm not going to make it a big deal. and and a lot just being, we can be overly conscious also of health, energy, Wi-Fi, radiation. And sometimes it can get to a point where it actually does create this separation between you and the world because you're just constantly worried about what is going to enter into your field.
mm-hmm.
Yes, it is good to unplug as much as you can from the walls at night when you're sleeping. Yes, it is. I'm finding it so soothing to sleep on a mattress without the spring coils.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm not going to drink Coke every morning or something like yes, and enjoy life, play with it, play with the energies that are in this theater of life, as I've brought that topic up
Mm-hmm.
before. Um, Something else that's coming up for me are the energy lines in the earth. In geomancy, we have the yin energy lines, and water lines that are sometimes toxic. Water lines that may be carrying energy. I mean, it's interesting, Nikki. Even as I speak, there's something about this conversation that feels old to me. It's so interesting. There's something else that needs to be spoken, and I can't really figure it out. But because we're going through such a transformation right now that I feel like even the ley lines and the water lines are shifting in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
But in any case, we can have polluted water. That is a fact. Polluted water, and that is most definitely an energy drain. Water in itself is very receptive, right, Nikki? Um, the yin energy is more of a, she can deplete, or at least the water can
Mm-hmm.
deplete you if you have the water line running under the bedroom, depending on the person, as you always remind me, Nikki, depending on the person.
It works the same with energy lines, but it is much easier sometimes to take precautions than to reprogram yourself to be able to handle the drain. It's easier to quit smoking than to reprogram yourself to not get cancer, as an example.
Right.
So sometimes
Yeah.
it's really better to unplug, to stop the Wi-Fi instead of reprogramming your whole body, because it's not always easy.
Yeah, it reminds me of a lot of the conversations in my some women group that I'm in. It's like some people are spending their whole lives trying to heal themselves, and it's actually an excuse to just to not get going on their life's work. And at a certain point, you just gotta quit smoking, right? Like it's just at a certain, because our temples are always under construction. So, but if you can be aware, like embrace that and say, okay, my temple is under construction, and I'm choosing to move on with my life's work.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could a never-ending healing process, right? Does that resonate? Like, is that kind of the
Well,
similar?
yes, we all need healing. You're never done. You're never done.
No.
If you're done, you die or something. I don't know. But we are here to grow, and when we're not growing, then we're dying. So healing never stops. And yes, we do need places and spaces that drain as well, because it cannot be all up. There needs to be a down as well. How much we think the world is one, but this is a place of duality. The one cannot exist without the other.
Yeah.
It is wise to not put your house on a place that is draining. But in
Yeah.
nature, we need them. In everybody, in every house, there's this one drawer which is a mess. Everybody has a drawer like that. I don't care how pretty your house looks and how neat you are. Everybody has a drawer like that, whether it's the socks or in the kitchen or under the stairs. Everybody has a place like that. And we need those spaces because the dark needs a place, or whatever we interpret as dark, because we cannot do without.
Yeah.
But for us as human beings, it's wise to not live in such places. We do not thrive on places that are good for ants and bees. It's just a different species, but we need those. We need each other.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There are so many spaces and places. The nature spirits, for example, there are some that are just so happy with a very yin, very receptive, wet, watery, whatever you want to perceive it as, experience it as space. And it's like, okay, that's what they need. That is, it's good to leave it as so. It may not be ideal for us to live there, but it has a purpose, exactly. And I think of these energy exchanges. I think of also Marco Pogachnik's work, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
imagining his drawings right now, right? Like the intake and the outtake, portals, geomantic phenomenon on a large scale, whether it be in cities or landscapes, in the middle of the ocean, wherever it is. There's always going to be this exchange of energy and this dance between the dark and the light, and the intake, the outtake, the masculine, the feminine.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, it's like I'm thinking of a dam. When I was at one of his workshops in Finland, the group we were looking at a large body of water, river to lake, river to lake. I think that the lake was the receptive energy.
Mm-hmm.
It was receptive energy, the female, and the river was the masculine.
Mm-hmm.
And before the dam arrived at the river, there was a healthy dance between the masculine and the feminine. And yin and yang, you can even, interpret it also as there are aspects of the dark, of the mystery, right? Of the unconscious in the feminine,
Mm-hmm.
right? Active, sexual, powerful, engaged energy of the masculine. They needed each other to be whole, right? To form that holon, right? At that scale. But it was so sad, and of course with the group we did work to alleviate the impact of that dam so that the energies could continue flowing even though there's a physical dam.
Mm-hmm.
Really powerful stuff. So it's like how are we damming that up? It's like almost like the egg that you're talking about that doesn't let anyone through is also a kind of dam that we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we can take it to an extreme. It would be maybe a spiritual energetic dam, right? to challenge people, right?
Yeah,
In spiritual circles. Yeah.
yeah. I see a comment from Fenneke.
Yeah.
I have a
Hi.
client at the moment who's pushing me in a direction where she wants me. I must do exactly what she wants. She hired me for making her footprint of her house because I am working from well-being, I guess. Um, but
Oh, I think
she,
she continued here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
it is
She's
so
continued.
frustrating because what she wants in all aspects is so bad. I'm very patient,
Mm.
but my energy blows away. How can
Mm.
I hold my positive energy? Connect and ground. And, one of the first things you learn probably in almost every energy training you take is how to ground and how to connect with the center of the universe and how to let in those energies and merge. And you can be this channel, and you are hired to do whatever you are doing. So if she is not taking on your advice, you could also fire clients.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nikki. Exactly. Yeah. Because it's
yeah,
a co-creation. Yeah.
yeah. And sometimes,
Something.
clients need you to get mad at them. If that's what it takes, and what are you not willing to be in order to get them to understand, which is
Oh my
also
God. You
about
have to
boundaries.
release.
You have to
Oh,
be willing to be everything, and if that includes being a bitch, then it includes being a bitch. And if you don't want to be that bitch, it's going to drain you.
well, I can't tell you, Nikki, how much that's helped me right now. Fenicky, how are you doing? Yeah. No, no, because I just had a recent experience and that I had to be the bitch. And there was a part of me that was like, I feel so bad, you know. But I kept on getting, it's like, you've done nothing wrong. You've done nothing wrong. It was what was needed. Yeah. I mean, good question. Yeah, I was going to also comment, make a suggestion. I have application forms. I don't know, Nikki, if you do as well. I find that really helps with screening my clients in the beginning before I actually partner with them. Um, so it may be also a call where you ask them specific questions. So you are first really clear from the get-go if you can be aligned or not. Otherwise, you're just a typical consultant, and I've been there so
Mm.
many years. Architecture, my friend, Amanda calls it prostitution. She says architecture is like prostitution. Yeah. Where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you didn't like this? Oh, well, I'll reduce my price. Oh, you didn't like that? Okay, well, I'll fix that for you. Oh, sure, I'll take that call and be on the phone with you for 2 hours and not, oh, sure, I'll do this for you. Stop. Stop all that. Especially if you're working with the energy of properties as well, the energetics. It's really
Yeah.
important that you're clear, crystal clear. And sometimes we don't know. We get into a partnership in the beginning and it feels really aligned and it just needs to be a part of the process, right, Nikki? Just needs to be
Yeah.
part of the process, as uncomfortable as it may be. Yeah.
Yeah. Panic is saying she's making decisions with her head. I frustrate her very much. Yeah, that's your job. Yeah, boundaries are as also in properties. Boundaries can be a huge energy drainer. Whether they're too thick or whether they're too thin or not even there. So if we talk about properties, look at the boundaries. How do the locks on your door look like? Do they close properly? How many do you have? Do you have only one or do you have 15? How does the gate look from your property? Do you have a gate? Or the entry, you already mentioned that. The entry is a huge influx of energy in a house. So look at that. So if you fix those things according to your needs and your family needs, it helps you to be more consistent with your own energy. And what's right for me doesn't necessarily have to be right for you. If I feel okay that I need to have 5 locks on my door and use them every time because that makes me feel comfortable, then I also have to think about where in my life do I have also these thick walls before I can connect. Because it might show up in relationships, it might show up in uh, uh, all other kinds of in life. And then you might want to either for the transformation uh, have less locks on your door, so you get reminded on a daily basis, oh, I have to lower my boundaries so I can get more connected with the ones I want to connect with, so other people do not find me as unapproachable as I might seem because of my thick walls. It's just little things that can help you on a daily basis. So yes, you also need to fix the material and work from the outside in instead of only from the inside out.
Yeah, love it. Anyone have any other questions as we're communicating? How are we for time here? Okay, we've got 15 more minutes.
Yeah.
I'll take some water.
Yeah. Because how do you feel about all these gadgets you can buy in order to protect yourself? There are a lot of promises made on any kind of energy vampire you can think of. How do you stand on that point?
Um, like for example, electromagnetic radiation protectors, or what kind of protectors are you
For
referring to?
example, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I don't use them.
well, I don't use them either, but they sometimes they work, but they
Sure,
work
sure.
on two ways. You can have things like geometric shapes. They work. They produce some kind of specific kind of energy just on its own, and you
Yeah,
can use that,
biogeometry. Yeah,
and it works independently of your psychological associations with that particular shape or sign or whatever. You can also have a rock you took from somewhere and you have been meditating with that rock and praying with that rock. So you infuse that with your energy and it becomes an amulet. But
yeah,
that's more psychological because the rock in itself doesn't do very much, especially not on electromagnetic fields. So then it's more about psychologically reprogramming yourself. But if you
yeah,
use a space and you use that in the form of a square or a triangle, independently of whatever you think about those shapes, something will work. Or with aromatherapy or um, stones, those beautiful crystals, um, seagulls, they all work on its own, but they work extra. But you can do without. You can easily do without if you just stay connected with heaven and earth.
yeah, yeah. The nature spirits are also very, when you are when they feel they can trust you in a way, trust isn't really in their dimension. Maybe I don't know if that's the right word, but because they're generally willing to work, but they're with you, but they're not willing to work with you if you're not willing to acknowledge them, give them gratitude, and honor them. I have done I take a the closest word would be shamanic. I take a more shamanic approach to
Mm-hmm.
working with properties. And so I lead my clients through journeys. In fact, the entire time they spend with me is a journey, right? And we open up their dream worlds as well. And it's a cyclical journey with an opening ceremony and a closing ceremony. And um, it is possible to co-create with the nature spirits on your property to also create um, instruments like you are talking about as well in the etheric realm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Sure,
quite a lot of fun because it's like, oh, I didn't expect that, right? Like there's a lot that can come up. Um, like a web wall that
yeah.
allows for other energies to come through, and they're quite willing to craft it with you. But the key
Mm-hmm.
is to tap into your imagination and know that it is a valuable tool for you, and not just, oh, that's just my imagination. Like, was
Mm-hmm.
that real? Was that not? Imagination is such an important tool for us to build the new earth in collaboration
Mm-hmm.
with the spirit realm, with the energies on the property. It can get a lot of fun. Like, you know, throw the rule books out. Like, wow, like, ancestors can be called in to help. And I've, seen all kinds of forms and apparatuses. That's a good word. Energetic apparatuses that are brought in, or instructions are given, like, okay, go to the spring, the water spring, which is a drive down, grab some water. I mean, these are intuitions and directions that I've received. Grab the water and sprinkle the water back on the property at various corners.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like, okay. And so it's a real joy when you're in that flow and co-creating in that way. And sometimes something physical does need to be a representation of that process.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, there's a question coming in.
Yeah.
Ah, good, Lynn. Hi. Um,
You read
Good,
it?
Lynn, and we'll soon be partnering. Good, Liz, if you don't mind me saying, Good, Lynn, you're a landscape architect. Um, Does electromagnetic stress affect the nature spirits? I mean, do the nature spirits leave their land piece if there is electro stress? That's a good question. That's a good question. I feel like it's possible. It's possible that they get stressed. They may be doing some overworking to be balancing that area as well. Um, it's a good question. I feel like the biogeometry community would also have a good perspective on that. I think it really does depend on the location. Um,
And the landowner, it
I've
all
seen places
depends.
that are very depleted. I've seen places that are very depleted from over-industrialization, from too many of these cell phone towers, and most certainly I can see that they have retracted back into the earth, back deep into the earth, and they've had to go into hiding. Yeah, yeah, it
I've
depends.
also seen examples of electrostress being used as to connect to specific kind of energies by shamanic people. They just sit close to, one of those phone towers. Or, it's not all damaging. You can transform it,
Yeah,
but it's not always easy. It is
yeah,
the next level of energy work. Uh, I guess you can do it. I can do it. I've been doing it. So it all depends on how you take the stewardship of your land.
Mm.
And yes, it also happens that a lot of churches now have one of those phone masts on top of a tower, and that changes a lot of the way the energy works of the place, especially when there are old churches, because it
Mm.
messes up the original energy construction of the whole building. Yeah, awareness about it is really key. Yeah,
A good
and then
question. Yeah.
you can work with it, because it's electromagnetic stress is also just an energy with an awareness, and if you can be aligned and play with it and dance with it, and use your imagination and make a difference between imagination and fantasy. Because imagination I always use as being a creative force, and fantasy is just a fantasy. But a fantasy could become an imagination as well. So in my book, imagination is more serious, more creative, more manifesting than just fantasy.
Yeah.
And then I think the sky is the limit. But the reality is most people are afraid of electromagnetic stress, which is
Yeah.
different kind of energy, and are not willing to look at it and play with it. And yes, it is an energy that you need to be careful with, because it can be damaging. A lot of trees, if a tree grows next to those energy lines, you can see that the
Yeah.
leaves are turning brown and die, and they lean over.
Yeah.
But trees have a different kind of awareness than people have. So yeah, it depends. It depends. And if you facilitate and work together with nature spirits, and there is electromagnetic stress, I think a lot can happen. A lot can
Yeah.
happen for the better, for a living environment, for people.
Something comes up for me too, like it's like almost like there are beings also that are here to bring technology to us.
Mm.
That is a fact. I mean, look at us, Nikki. We're on video through Instagram, right? Insta Live, internet. You need the
Mm.
internet for
Mm.
this. Look at what's happening. We're bringing the world together, right?
Mm.
We're able to connect with all these amazing people and serve you all through this conversation and explore possibilities. And we wouldn't have been able to do that if, the internet didn't exist. And yeah, I am concerned about the 5G, the satellites and all that thrown into the atmosphere, and we are transforming at such an alarming rate, and there are energetic beings that are doing the job of developing this technology um, on a certain energetic plane. And they're selecting people on Earth to execute that, right? Some of them are big companies that we may not feel aligned with, but in a way, it's like someone needs to evolve this technology. Now, I actually think that there's going to be free technology, and there is free technology, free energy. That's what I meant, free energy. I was just thinking as I was setting up, like I have this ring light, and I have my making sure everything's plugged in, and all these adapters and stuff, and I'm always like effing pissed about these plugs. Like there's something in me, and I think that it's probably the part of me that really, comes from a different planet. That's like, you guys are still using these cords? Come on, people! It's time to get with the times. I think there are the tools for free energy. I just think that there are people who are blocking that from happening. And when I say free energy, I think that it means that we can not depend on all these plugs and being plugged into the grid. I don't know how it works scientifically, but there are people who are researching it, and of course Tesla
Mm.
was the one who first
Mm.
researched it. So what I'm saying is, it's like, yes, this is all needed for our awakening. The internet is as well. And like going back to what Nikki was saying in that conversation with the energy vampire, imagine the electromagnetic radiation being is the energy vampire. You're having a conversation with the electromagnetic radiation at the cocktail party. Do you play with it with your imagination, or are you creating that wall? Ooh, I love this conversation, Nikki. Oh my
Yeah.
God, so much opened up for me too.
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
see it in your face. You should dance with it. Do not feel like, hey, this is like the Stone Age, but you know, this is where we are now, and feed the energy to the free energy people, plane, whatever you call it. So make stronger what is healthy, and don't spend too much energy on what is negative, but dance with it.
yeah,
And that goes for basically everything in life. Focus on what you do want, not on what you don't want.
yeah.
It's not easy.
No. A student of mine, I used to teach at an architecture school in Turkey, and a student of mine, she was helping me with a project on actually our current property. Um, Not the one by the sea, but another one where it's more of a countryside. And there is a couple cell phone towers close by. And I have to admit, like, just from all the readings and everything, it's like each time I look at those things, I'm like, I don't know if I like you, like I look at them in that way. And I remember I was concerned about it. I was voicing it to my student who was helping me out, and she's like, "Well, at least you'll get a good internet connection." And she
Exactly.
did so. And I just looked at her, and I'm just like, "You're really part of the future, aren't you?"
Yeah.
And with the balance, and of course being conscious, and making sure that the land is okay with it, asking it questions. Can I help? Right? Can we help you in this situation? How are you feeling about this electromagnetic radiation? Talk to the nature spirits directly. The more you talk, take that time, whatever that time is, whether it's in the morning where you feel the most clear and centered and grounded, whatever time in the day, and do a practice where you're
Yeah.
communicating and ask the land. Ask the land and notice how the answers come to you. At first, it may be like, was that the answer? Was that like, I don't know. Like, is that just my mind? But the more you practice, the more you practice, the more you practice, the more you'll discover where you are getting a yes or a no in your body. I'm very sacral, or sacral. Yeah, I said sacral. Yes, sacral. And with the human design, I'm emotionally defined in my solar plexus. So solar plexus as well. So the lower part of my body is my yes and no. Yes and no. Yeah. But it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
Nikki, do you have a yes and no spot before we close in your
It
body?
it differs. It differs on the
Me
kind of
too. Yeah,
question and the kind of job and the kind of environment.
yeah,
Yes, my body. Yes, sometimes I hear a certain kind of click
yeah, yeah,
and especially when I need to point out, an energy line that's invisible. Instead of using dowsing rods, I can just hear it. So I point with my finger, which is a rod in a way, and I can just hear it. It just makes a
yeah,
connection, and then, oh, that's the right spot. but that's how, I
Yeah,
noticed that, and that's what I made stronger. It's a really easy tool for me, but yeah, it differs how the information comes. It also
yeah,
depends on the client, how the client receives information. Then often I receive it in a similar way, so which makes
yeah. Right. That's
communication
so
easier.
true. Yeah, it's almost like it comes in a package that is also good to easy to transfer to the client or vice versa. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yes.
So
Sometimes I get direct messages. Yeah, I'm hearing as well, like words. So yeah, it differs. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So if
Well,
there aren't
amazing.
any questions anymore, then I think it's time to wrap it up.
Yeah,
If you do have
everyone.
questions in the next coming weeks, just send them in a DM or in an email, so we take them along into the next one in, I think, about 2 weeks. And yeah, thank you for today, Aisha.
Yeah, thanks
Thank you
everyone.
for watching, everyone, and being present. And
Yeah, it was a
yeah,
great conversation yet again, yet again. So great to connect again, Nikki. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks on my profile.
all right. Have a
All
great day,
right.
everyone.
You too, and have a good rest, Nikki. Hope you
Yeah,
feel better.
thank you. Thank
Okay,
you.
bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.